suburbs of Chicago, I suppose.
Hello and welcome to the MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Eckman, and I'm joined by Bill Leon and Bill Arsenault today.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Sorry about that.
All right. We have a few movies to talk about. This is going to be a indie week because not many major releases of any interest have come out recently.
Well, there were some movies that came out before this past weekend that I was meaning to see, like Colossal, for example. I'm going to see that very soon, but it'll have to wait till after I see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple others, like The Lost City of Z, which I know we talked about, and a few other little films, but yeah, nothing of terrible note, really, except really for Slight.
Which we'll be getting into in just a moment, except that this morning, Netflix dropped the trailer for the Marvel's Defenders series.
Yes, this is the culmination of, what, 4, 5, what was it, like 1, 2, 3, like about 5 seasons of shows thus far.
I made this, yeah.
One Luke Cage and one Iron Fist. It's all led up to this mini-series event.
Much in the same way you had the the Avengers movie was the lead up to Iron Man 2. That fits to Daredevil season 1 and season 2. Then you have Incredible Hulk, and then you have Thor and you have Captain America.
Yeah.
So it's actually the exact same number of seasons of a series match up to the exact same number of Marvel movies that led up to their.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about that. That is
true.
That's interesting.
Which I'm sure that there's absolutely no that they did that other than it's just getting a group of people together. And what's interesting about Defenders is I'm not a big comic junkie, but I know that the Defenders that they're assembling for this are not the the traditional Defenders team.
Well, also, as far as there being 5 seasons and then 5 films, because you have Iron Man 1 and 2, I think with Daredevil, they decided to go for season 2 as soon as they possibly could, just because that series went over very well, and they wanted to strike when the iron's hot.
Which I think was a good idea, especially because season 2 of Daredevil, I know for some people it's divisive, but the Punisher, if anything, introducing the character of the Punisher to the series was worth the entire season, even if you don't like the rest of it.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments between John Bernthal and Charlie Cox that were just such a joy to watch. Just them playing off each other. That rooftop scene is still like burned in my mind.
Oh,
I loved it when they were in the cemetery. Personally, I thought that was pretty cool.
I think my favorite scene
I said, any scene with the two of them is incredible because those two actors just have such a handle on those characters at this point.
My favorite Punisher scene didn't involve the Daredevil. It was actually a scene later in the season where the Punisher is, for the first time, kind of talking about himself and, what he's gone through in that diner.
Oh, the coffee shop, yeah.
Yeah, the diner scene, and then he senses trouble, and you see him just go from sensitivity to a violent man of action within a couple of seconds. And
well, that's the thing about that scene. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the thing about the scene. It wasn't that he sensed danger. He knew danger was coming. Mm-hmm. He was plotting this the entire time. This was a part of his strategy.
Exactly. You're right. He sensed it was there, but you're right. It was his plan the whole time to attract attention. And, and you wonder how much of his emotional breakdown that he has in that scene was he actually being emotional? Was that meant to simply keep her sitting next to him so that he could kill more people?
That's possible. It really is. He's not, he wasn't going to put her in danger necessarily, but he was definitely going to use her to his advantage if he could.
Well, I would argue that the mere fact that he allowed himself to be seen publicly with her put her in direct danger. I think he just...
Okay, but I think he meant he wasn't going to allow anyone to hurt her.
Not as far as he felt he was in control, which, yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Well, he stopped her from getting killed a couple times, so, I mean, you know, he's like...
I mean, you can...
Yeah.
I'm sure none of John F. Kennedy's guards wanted, you know, none of them wanted him to be killed. It's just the fact is you can do all you can to guard someone. What I'm saying is it's just like he has this illusion that he's able to control everything, and that's what's interesting about it. It's the house of cards he's built around his reprisal.
So the Defenders trailer.
Which, by the way, is not going to. Which, by the way, for all intents and purposes, is probably not going to include the Punisher, because the Punisher is very much not a Defender.
No.
In
fact, if anything, the Defenders versus the Punisher could be a season.
Can I say this? That I don't know how controversial this is to say, because people really love John Bernthal as the Punisher. People really want to see.
He's great.
People, as far as that becoming its own show and having a season, I'm a little lukewarm going in, just because I've never been sold on the Punisher as a solo character. I appreciate the Punisher more as part of someone else's story.
So with the Defenders, what we're going to be getting is, of course, as everyone knows, Matt Murdock, the Daredevil. We're getting Jessica Jones. We're getting Luke Cage, Danny Rand / Iron Fist, and Elektra Nachos.
Finn Jones. Did you say nachos?
No, Elektra
I know it's
Nachos.
Nachos or something, but I'm sorry, it's Nachos.
I remember Jennifer Garner in the Ben Affleck film says Elektra Nachos.
Yeah, right. Finn Jones, aka Coachella Fist.
Finn Jones sounds like a superhero name, doesn't it? Well, I guess Jessica Jones. Like Jones has Indiana Jones. It just has a nice little...
Well, that's his actor name. That's his stage name. But
I understand. I know that. I'm just saying you could have a superhero called Finn Jones.
Yeah, I guess you can. I guess Jones does fit. Indiana, Jessica, Finn. You know,
Mike Jones,
Finn Balor.
There you go. The wrestler, Finn Balor. He could be a superhero right there. But no, Defenders. Going into the release of the trailer, I was hyped as hell for this. Even though I haven't seen the Iron Fist show, and I kind of am not sure if I'm going to see it.
No, don't bother.
You could probably skip it and not miss anything.
Like, I always kind of felt Iron Fist if he was a hard character to do, then why give him a whole show? Why not just have him be a supporting character?
I think the biggest problem with the Iron Fist show is even the worst episodes have a glimmer of something inside of it where you feel they could have done this better with just a little bit more effort.
That's true.
And that's the problem. You throughout it, you're seeing a scene where you're like, wow, this has promise, and then you're let down by it. So don't bother. Just, you know.
Was Finn Jones the problem in that show, or was it?
No. I mean, he has his own set of issues as an actor. He has his own limitations, but he is not the problem. The problem is...
I wouldn't say it's Finn Jones as an actor problem. I think he was miscast, but I don't blame Finn Jones for that. I blame the producers.
Well, I can see this working out, and I hope that he meshes with the cast of the Defenders very well. But as far as the solo series goes, like they're trying to tackle all this stuff that has been done better in other places.
Yeah, I mean, from the vibe I'm getting from the Defenders trailer, it looks like he's going to mesh rather well with the other characters, because the other characters are treating him like a little bitch.
At this
they're
point,
basically
and I don't know if they're
around him and everything.
I don't know if they're ever going to give him the costume with the bandana and the green maybe spandex. I don't know what it is, but like. I feel like it would have been better if they didn't waste our time with that season of Iron Fist. If he just showed up in the Defenders, like already fully formed, ready to go, and we didn't have to deal with all that clumsy backstory that they did with that series. it would have been fine. It would have been absolutely fine.
Or introduce him in Luke Cage. Do something because they were already
Right.
in Luke Cage.
Well, Iron Fist and Luke Cage in the comics are supposed to be like the best of friends, right?
Supposed to be heroes for hire. That's their
basically. It was. I think it was the late 70s. Neither comic was selling very well, and then they just mashed them together into one comic, and then it just started selling better.
And blaxploitation and martial arts were doing really well in cinemas.
Yeah.
So
I forget who made this joke. It's not my joke, but somebody made the joke. Like, black people love kung fu.
Well,
I
wouldn't doubt that, but
I'm saying,
and there just happens to be plenty of people who love kung fu who also love exploitation films.
But here's the thing, though. Is that like blaxploitation as a film movement, those movies screened in theaters where they would just show kung fu movies that they could get the rights to very cheaply.
Yeah,
that's and like the 70s kung fu movement kind of blossomed out of like not shitty theaters, but like not theaters.
Oh no, these theaters were undoubtedly shitty. I don't think anyone who went to no interview I've ever heard about people who went to 42nd Street in the 70s would say that those theaters were quality. What they said about them is they had a hell of a time watching movies there, despite the truly depraved quality of those theaters.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's actually the fun part of it. You go into this dingy place where you feel like there's a good chance of someone getting stabbed during the movie, and it enhances the. You step on whatever bodily fluids might have been left there the day before.
Thank you
and
for that, by the way.
That it enhances the feeling of watching the movie. There's a communal experience to the kind of people who would brave those conditions to sit through a movie.
Showing the porno movies the day before.
Sometimes at the same time.
We have Porno Chic film Deep Throat playing on Thursday, and then on Friday we have Bruce Lee. So come on down.
They can't afford the Bruce Lee movies. They can only afford Shaolin Monk 7.
Who's the guy?
Well, no, they can afford Bruce Lee, but that's Lee spelled L-I.
Oh, right. Yeah, the knockoff Bruce Lee's.
Who is the guy? I don't know if either of you know the answer to this, but the film that was used to make Kung Pao Enter the Fist? Jimmy Wang Yu. That's the guy.
I don't know who the fuck that is, but... Yeah.
Have you seen Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
I saw it in theaters.
Okay, Jimmy Wang Yu is the character that the Chosen One is imposed on. Like, all the edits are... Steve Odekirk is usually taking that actor's place.
Okay, well, the Defenders. Let's get back to this. We've been talking about Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Let's talk about the actual content.
I actually just re-listened. Am I still on?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm still
on.
I had just listened to us review the first season of Iron Fist on the podcast, and I had asked, do you think that Mike Coulter and Finn Jones are going to have good chemistry? Because that seems important. If you're going to go that angle where those two characters really become a team, that seems important. And I was met with a unanimous no. It's not going to happen. Especially from Hawk. Hawk was very adamant about Finn Jones has no personality.
Well, it depends on the route you take with the characters and the writing. I mean, in the trailer, all that happens between the two is that Luke Cage is like, "Who are you?" and Iron Fist is like, "Who are you?" And then they respond back with Iron Fist goes, "I'm the immortal Iron Fist." He says it like he's so serious, like that wasn't a goofy statement. And then Luke Cage looks at him like, "You're the what?" Like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about, you crazy white kid?
So does anyone have any doubt that the Iron Fist is going to be the Aquaman of the Defenders?
No, but at the same time, I can see how his powers would lend to the group's dynamic. And somebody actually in the comments of the trailer on YouTube, somebody said, like, Marvel needs to develop a video game called Hallway Fighter.
Yeah.
They have so many. they have so many fight sequences in hallways in these Netflix shows. I don't know if it's becoming like a trope at this point, but
Oh, it's a total trope.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The reason why is because it's easiest to control the conditions of filming a choreographed battle sequence indoors. It just lends to the drama because you have a lengthy area that a person has to traverse in order to get into the next room.
shout out to whoever made that comment. You know who you are. I don't know who you are. You're doing good work. Get back out there.
You do you, commenter. You do you.
You do you, yes. But the trailer overall, I thought was pretty exciting. It has Nirvana's "Come As You Are."
Okay, so that I wanted to talk about that because when that started like amping up, they kind of played the guitar riff a few times, and I was like, "Oh, is this going to be one of those somber covers?" And it wasn't. They used Kurt Cobain's vocals in it, but I was thinking, isn't this the kind of thing that we bitch about other superhero movie trailers for doing?
I mean, if it's a morose cover, that's one thing. Using a song, I mean, that's been done for a long time.
They didn't just use the song; they remixed the shit out of this song. Like I think they took the vocal track and applied it to like a different backing track.
A little bit of remixing. I don't know. That doesn't bother me as much.
No, believe me, that's what I'm saying. It's like I would
say more content based.
I was definitely
in the case of a morose remake, of a song that's different because that's literally saying we're taking a song that we know we can sell because it's a cover of something that's popular. But we're making it fit the mood of this trailer.
Oh boy, yeah, I hate it when they do that. DC Comics is the biggest culprit of that at this point. They did it multiple times with the Suicide Squad promotion,
and in the movie too.
And in the movie, they used the actual songs though. With the trailers, I know they did that.
They're horribly, and it was just the movie was like a weird remix, but it was like a poorly done remix. It was like if I tried to make a remix.
It was almost as if Suicide Squad was edited by a trailer house. Oh wait, it was.
Oh no, Suicide Squad.
Defenders certainly looks by the look of the trailer certainly looks better than Suicide Squad, the movie. But of course, we have to wait till the series actually drops. What about Sigourney Weaver? What do you guys think about that? Her being the bad guy.
I think
was she in a series prior to this?
No, this is her debut.
Okay, yeah. She was a great villain in Cabin in the Woods. She's played the villain in other things. What else has she played the villain in?
She was the villain in Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, she's the villain in Cabin in the Woods.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that is a big spoiler. But you've seen Cabin in the Woods, right?
No.
Apparently not.
Oh,
yeah.
Bill, you just dropped that ball.
That movie's like fucking 6 years old at this point.
I know. I
It's
agree.
okay. It's fine.
That movie's.
Well, of course, Sigourney Weaver. She was totally the villain in Gorillas in the Mist because fuck those gorillas, right?
Oh boy.
She was sort of a villain in Ghostbusters at that one point. She got possessed.
She was sort of a villain in Alien Resurrection, where she's cloned and she's a bad Ripley.
Yeah, her character is sort of on both sides there. I mean, she's played kind of villainish, kind of. You actually in Wall-E, she was computer.
Oh, okay. Well, in regards to Cabin in the Woods, I thought she did. It's a brief scene, like it's literally like one scene that she has where it's revealed that she is the person behind it all, and she is so slimy in that scene. She's great. Like I'm excited to see what she'll do in this because, again, I've seen her play this type of role, or at least for a brief moment. I think she's fine. The Defenders.
Okay.
You know what I do like about the Defenders trailer is the fact that the way the trailer starts is Jessica Jones is like in a confession, police, being berated, and then Matt Murdock comes in. He's like, "I'm your lawyer." She's like, "Who the fuck are you?" I mean, I don't think she says "fuck," but that's a good way to get those two characters to meet. You know what I mean?
See,
like Matt Murdock found out about her during an investigation of like, while he's Daredevil, he learns about something, and Jessica gets in the mix of it, and he's like, she's got information I need. So that's how they get. Yeah.
That's one thing that bugged me about both the Luke Cage and the Iron Fist series is there were several moments in both of those, and actually Jessica Jones too, where all three of those characters get into legal trouble. There's an episode or two where that happens, and they totally just out of pure, I'm guessing laziness to bring him in, missed out the opportunity to have him defended in one way or another by.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
I mean, even if it was just a brief cameo where he just sat down and said, "Hi, I'm your lawyer," and then 2 seconds later they're leaving the building or something.
I'm 100% with you on that opinion because I think I've made this complaint for like most of these Netflix Marvel shows where I'm like, why don't they, especially with Claire being connected to all of them. I'm like, why haven't these people met yet? Why haven't their paths crossed at this point? Because
there's always that tacit scene where Claire mentions, "Oh, I have my friends," and you never hear someone say, we really need some help. You say you have friends. Could any of them help us?
As excited as I am to see that scene that they put in the trailer for Defenders, where Matt Murdock kind of walks in and they finally meet, I feel like it would have probably been a better move to introduce him earlier on in some of these other shows and just sort of like they already know each other when this series starts. Might be confusing.
I kind of like how it's confusing to them that they're like, this is a big city, and they don't know each other,
It's
right. Well,
from a storytelling perspective, I understand what you're saying, but just logically, when you look at it, I
think the challenge that it presents is the fact that each one of these, with the exception of Daredevil, well, even Daredevil season 2 sort of has an origin story aspect to it because it introduces the Punisher into the series. But so every season of these Marvel Netflix shows has essentially felt like the origin movie, and Defenders feels like it's going to be a reprise of that. It's going to be an origin movie, but it's about how they all get together, and they have that 8 episodes to do it. This is shorter than the others, so they're gonna have to get to work on getting things done faster. Of course, what am I saying? The Marvel series always takes so long to get where they're going. Maybe giving them less time to do it in will make it better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm talking out my ass at this point. None of us have seen it.
I want to see it. I'll watch it. I'll watch it when it comes out.
Oh yeah, I will see it. I'm looking forward to it. The end of August, I guess. Mid-August, August 18th.
10 days after my birthday. Okay.
Very nice. So, sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out this weekend. Marvel always releases a movie in time for my birthday.
There you go. And this one looks good. I don't really. I've kind of been avoiding the marketing for Guardians 2 just because I want to go in pretty blind. And I wouldn't say completely blind because I have seen adverts for it and little trailers here and there, but
I've seen
like
the trailers
not giving
as
too
they've
much
been
away.
putting them out in theaters, but I've intentionally avoided reading too much because I don't want to be surprised, I do want to be surprised by the plot.
Yeah.
I don't want to be surprised about plot.
My brother tried to. Anyway.
Now, the only other thing about Defenders I want to mention is that has plenty of Stick voicing it, because I want Stick to be in. First of all, Stick should have had a fucking appearance in
Iron Fist, and I
completely
agree with you.
The entire plot of the Iron Fist is about them the fight against the Hand, and yet the character who's the leader of an organization bent on the destruction of the Hand has no appearance in it. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I agree with
spite.
Slight,
Santa's
yeah.
Slight.
Yes, Slight.
Yes.
Santa's Slight. I
Slight.
like that.
Santa Slight. Slight. Stanislavski? Slight.
So what's this
I'm-
film about? Vince McMahon gave somebody money to make this film, I guess.
And
Quite.
Blumhouse.
I mean, this was a co-production between Blumhouse Tilt and WWE Studios.
Let me say this: if I wasn't a wrestling fan, I might be completely unaware of this movie's existence because they are advertising the shit out of it on Raw and SmackDown.
Well, yeah, of course. This is actually the best-looking WWE Studios film that's ever been made in terms of it looks like a movie.
The First Marine, maybe. I don't know.
No, even that movie had like stupid stuff. I mean, yeah, explosions, but I mean, other than that, I mean, this actually feels like a real movie. It doesn't just feel like
You have me now looking up the WWE studio movies to see if I've seen any that I could consider.
There was See No Evil. I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah,
so
what was the date, Bill? The date that haunted Kane?
Something.
Oh, it was like May 19th or something. Yeah, and Kane was
But
like May
turns out
19th.
that was the
May
turns
19th.
out that was the release date of the movie. Yeah.
Let's see my
The
movie.
Rundown and the Scorpion King were early examples before it was officially WWE films.
Okay, yeah, the Rundown is good.
All right,
Scorpion King
okay.
was
That was a
shit.
I've never seen the Scorpion King.
It wasn't bad. I mean, it just wasn't all that good. It was kind of a ho-hum okay movie. The Rundown was pretty decent, if only because The Rock and Sean William Scott have such great chemistry with each other.
Not only that, but the Rundown knew when to go over the top. There's a scene in the Rundown where The Rock punches through brick wall for no reason, just to show how fucking badass he is.
Oh, okay, Bill, I've got one for you. Oculus.
Maybe, I don't know. I still say Slight is the better looking of it. Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't.
I have not
say.
seen Slight, so I can't speak to it. So.
WWE.
But do you want me to get
Studios
into Slight a
has
little bit?
Presence in Hollywood. How fucking crazy is that?
Really?
So tell us about Slight.
Not just in Hollywood, but in Sundance. This was a Sundance.
Oh my! People are comparing this to both Get Out and Chronicle. What do you have to say to that, Bill?
People are comparing this to Chronicle and Iron Man.
I've heard some people. Oh no! They're just using producers of Get Out. That's the trailer. Yeah. The trailer's like the producers of Get Out.
Because Blumhouse is it.
Everyone said this is like Chronicle meets Iron Man, and
I've heard that.
I watched. Yes. It is nothing like either of those two.
Okay.
And that's not to say by itself that's a bad thing. It's to say that reviewer is. I mean, like that's just. It's just not true. Was
that Armand White that wrote that?
No, it wasn't Armand White. It was I forgot who it was, but it's in the marketing. It's one of those like pull quotes. It's in the marketing of the movie.
Yes, they put it in every trailer. I've seen it.
Iron Man, I'm like, no. It's closer to Fantastic Four than anything.
Tell us about it. What's this movie about?
Okay, so Slight is about this.
I can't wait to hear this.
Who is just out of high school. Both of his parents are dead. His mom died just recently, and he has to take care of his little sister. And they live in Los Angeles. Not so much the slums of Los Angeles, but they do live, in that area. So it's like. It's not the best area of Los Angeles to be living in. He makes his money by hustling magic tricks on the street, being a magic trick performer, a magician, and also he deals drugs for a drug kingpin played by Dule Hill. But he's kind of a kind-hearted drug dealer. He offers good advice, like don't take too many of these pills or else you're going to get fucking crazy, and don't offer if you're trying to get a date, because that's just bad etiquette. He offers his advice freely. I'm like, okay, he's kind-hearted. He's not necessarily enjoying what he's doing, but he's going to throw out some good advice when he can.
So this movie gets. It sounds like this movie is Dope meets Chronicle.
Not quite. Not even Dope meets Chronicle. When I saw the trailers for this, I saw a lot of the movie Fresh in this. Have you guys heard of the movie Fresh?
I do not.
It was a Samuel L. Jackson supporting role movie about a kid, specifically Samuel L. Jackson's little son, but is the character who lives in New York City, and he's involved in helping out a local gang and stuff. He's in the gang life, but he wants to get out of it. So he strategizes to figure out a way to manipulate others to get out of his situation and get out of the street life.
On sacrifice.
Film. Yeah, exactly. It's a brilliant film in that it uses chess strategy, street life, and it's really interesting. So I kind of thought this was going to be like the superhero version of Fresh, because in the trailer he's like, I gotta fix this. I gotta get out of the street life. I gotta help my daughter out, my sister out. I gotta, we gotta do all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And he's got magic powers because he's a magician and
powder
stuff. But did I say powder?
I said powder.
You said powder. You said no. That's totally different. But
Never watched Powder.
I don't want to see Powder. Fuck that movie. I heard too much about it when I was a little kid. The only thing I took away from it was that it was done by a molester.
We should watch Powder someday. Someday.
Let's not watch Powder.
Yes.
It's a creepy movie. I've
never
seen bits
seen it.
of it.
I'm so glad that I made this happen. This conversation.
Yeah, I know. The movie is clearly made by a child molester. If you just watch the movie, but also if you read up on it, it's the guy who molested kids on his previous films. By a genuine creeper. Disney decided to make it, so fuck them.
Yeah,
for real. But anyways, Slight. Dule Hill is the drug kingpin.
Hold up. You said he's a magician, right?
Yeah, the kid is a magician.
Sleight of hand? Is that what the title's about?
Yes.
Oh my god, I figured it out. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so Dule Hill is the drug kingpin, and at first he's kind of cool. He's just like, yeah, here's a bag of drugs, sell them, and get back with me when you're done. At first, but then it slowly moves into coercion. It slowly moves into violence, and eventually amputation of people's hands. Not murder, not straight up murder. He forces the kid to do things he otherwise wouldn't want to do or get involved in. So the kid, he meets up with a girl his age, and they strike up a romantic relationship inexplicably. I say inexplicably because everything he does on the dates with her, would immediately turn off any other girl. And this isn't to say he's socially awkward. It's just calls a lot, and girls don't like that. When you're in the middle of a date, they're talking about themselves and your phone goes off. This girl is very understanding of that shit.
Does he answer it?
Yeah, he answers it.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's just bad etiquette, you know what I mean? And they kind of quickly rush through the romance. So it's like, there's really no reason for them to be getting together except that she's kind of fascinated by his powers, if he has any, which is also kind of ambiguous. I'll get into that in a second if you want me to get into spoilers. But
I would love for you to get into spoilers because
okay, I'll get into them in a little. I'll get into them in a little bit. But anyways, the movie picks up when he fucks up and he cuts drugs with baking soda. In order to sell more of them so he can make more money so he can get out of the street life and move away. Mm-hmm. But Dule Hill figures this out and he's like, fuck you, man. Now you owe me $45,000 by Sunday night.
Oh.
So he has to make this money or else he's going to get fucked up. So vast majority of this film has nothing to do with magic. It's mostly just him hustling drug money, trying to find ways to make money, and whether it's by performing or whether it's by drugs. And usually it's by drugs.
So instead of Slight, this film should have been called Hustle and Flow 2.
Well, no. Slight still works because it's a slight in a different sense. But
oh, okay.
playing a sleight of hand by making you think this is a Chronicle meets Iron Man film, when really it's like a ho-hum drama.
It's like The Cobbler.
Oh,
It's like the
drama. That's
Cobbler, yes. So anyway, do you want me to go through the whole plot, or do you want me to?
So, Bill, you're saying that this is a slight movie?
Yes, I even made that pun in my review for the website.
I know. It's just
slight. I mentioned that at the end of my review for the site. I gave it 4 beers. Out to about 2.5 out of 5 stars. It just was overall disappointing. Wrong. The focus of it was it had a small budget. It had $250,000 of a budget.
$250,000. So
it looks okay. Like it's kind of bland, like the camera movements and the cinematography and the framing and all that, but it moves along well enough and it looks very it's HD or whatever. It's I don't know if it's 4K, but it definitely looks like high quality video, and they put some money into the actual filming of it. So I'll give credit, of course. The movie looks like a movie.
This digital camera had the best rating on Amazon, so we bought it.
There you go. Exactly. WWE Studios. That's how they do their work. They just buy off Amazon. But no, seriously though, the special effects employed in the movie actually look pretty good. There's a lot of lighting tricks. There's a lot of levitations and hands, if you will.
This is like it's Now You See Me meets Iron Man. That's what this is.
No, it's not like Now You See Me meets Iron Man. Now You See Me is entirely about magic. This movie's not entirely about magic.
From what I've heard, this movie is not something meets anything. So
that's what I'm saying. Is like that pull quote that they keep using in all the trailers, like Chronicle meets Iron Man. I'm just riffing on that. I'm just trying. What this movie does is it uses a skeleton of Fresh and applies it to a superhero origin story, but in a way, it makes it stupid. You know what I mean? Like, it dumbs everything down. It dumbs down the superhero origin, and it dumbs down the story of Fresh. Down to this bland blanket level where nothing's exciting. It's just a movie. You know what I mean? Like something you might watch in the afternoon on a weekend on TNT or TBS or something. It would just show up, and you really aren't changed no matter, one way or the other. It's just kind of, That's really the movie, and things only really get interesting at the very, very end. And I suspect this has to do with the budget. The budget was, like I said, was $250,000, and they probably just didn't have the money to do all the things they wanted to do. So what they did was, okay, let's build everything up. And in a way that's efficient, and in a way that's makes for good tension. Problem is, there wasn't good tension or tension at all leading up to that. It was just, we kind of know that's going to happen. It was just random, not random, but it was just regular scenes of this guy dealing drugs and being worried about what the Kingpin guy is going to do to him. And then at the end, he gets drastic and decides to use his magic. Magic.
So this doesn't sound like a very magical movie.
Not at all. Do you want to get into spoilers?
There should have been a rim shot there. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have the effects thing pulled up, and I think they got rid of it. But yeah, no, right? Well, we should do a rest in peace video for that.
Yes, we should.
The only sound effect I have right now is this. Not quite sure that fits though.
No.
Boom. It kind of fits in a weird way, but all right. So getting into spoiler territory, how does this movie end, and where did his powers come from? Mm-hmm. Well, Throughout the film, we see that he's dealing with an infection on his arm that looks like a surgical scar, and
Okay.
it's up on his shoulder. And he keeps applying hydrogen peroxide to it to make sure it's okay and that kind of stuff. And it looks a lot like a third eye.
Oh no,
But
it turns into a real eye, doesn't it?
No. That if it did, that would be incredible.
That's some
But
Iron
no, it
Fist
doesn't.
shit.
It's just like like it looks like a third eye kind of thing. We later learn when he visits an old science, like his old high school science teacher, who offered him help in the beginning of the film when his mother died.
Played by Dan Castellaneta. That was a Fantastic Four reference.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, he goes to see his science teacher when he's exhausted all other options of paying off this drug dealer, and his sister has been kidnapped by him. He's like, okay, I've exhausted all other options. I need your help, science teacher guy. And so he shows the science teacher guy his arm, and the science teacher says, like, dude, you built an electromagnet in your arm?
What?
So that's where his powers come from. He's able to make objects move that are magnetized because he has an electromagnet in his arm and he has a battery in his backpack.
And then they never explained that prior to this?
This is the only time it ever comes up. And so the guy explains, okay, you need more power, so let's reroute the wires. Let's add a bigger battery. Let's do this. Let's do that. But I'm going to warn you, it's going to burn your arm. The kid's like, whatever, I got to do this. So he's able to pull a car a little bit at one point. And, he's able to pull himself into the car. He doesn't really pull the car itself.
Battery, like if you're trying to pull a car or pull the weight of a car, wouldn't the battery just rip out of your fucking arm?
Well, he's got it in his backpack. It's not in his arm. He's got an electromagnet in the arm, but it's hooked up to a battery in his backpack.
I'm not talking about the battery. I'm talking about the magnet, the actual thing that's magnetized.
Of that, yeah, it probably would, but this is a movie.
Couldn't he just like have an electromagnetic suit or something?
This is a movie.
He doesn't even have a suit. He just has like a shirt and a jacket.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could make a hoodie into an electromagnet, and since he's wearing it, that you'd be like, okay, so it's his suit, and it'd be more believable than. Sorry, I'm getting nitpicky with this.
Him do his magic tricks. He explains to his girlfriend earlier in the film that he was impressed by a magician when he was a kid who was able to put a knife through his hand without bleeding. So he asked the guy, how did you do the trick? And the guy told him. He said, every day I would make a little hole in my hand, making it bleed or whatever, and it would develop scar tissue. And then finally, once I reached the other end of my hand, I could do the trick. So it wasn't a trick. He was actually just putting a knife through his hand, but only because the scar tissue and the latex that he put over it covered it up. So it looked like it was perfect. So that kind of sets you up for this electromagnet thing, except you don't really think that that's what it is. We're thinking it's like a supernatural thing at first. It's just science, which is fine, but science doesn't quite make all that much sense. They just kind of say battery, electromagnet. They just kind of throw these words out. So he goes over to the drug dealer's, the Kingpin's place to find out where his sister is. He fucks everybody up by ripping out gold tooths and by stopping bullets midair like Neo in the Matrix. And then he finds out where his sister is without killing anyone. You don't have to kill people. He goes the drug kingpin even says after he gets a bullet stuck in his forehead, which was being levitated by the kid. He's like, "Oh, we're cool now because you have superpowers and you can fuck me up. We're cool, man. Just leave." Exactly. That's exactly my reaction right there. So he finds out where his sister is. He and his girlfriend and his sister leave town. A year later, they're in San Diego, and life is good. The movie ends in the bathroom when he's trying to apply more power to his arm, and his girlfriend looks in and she goes, "Oh my God!" And the movie just cuts.
That sounds incredibly disappointing.
Yes.
I don't have anything else I can say about it.
And we do see a shot after he's in the drug kingpin's lair and he, uses his magnetism powers. We do see a shot of his arms smoking and charred black. So they don't explain how he healed from that or that he healed at all from that. I mean, the electromagnet doesn't protect him from that. He didn't like put something over his skin to make sure his skin would be okay. His arm is charred now. I was like, he's gonna lose his arm in the next couple minutes. Or
I'm
like,
still not sure why this electromagnet has to be embedded in his fucking arm to make this work. I'm sorry. I'm questioning the screenwriter and the decisions that he made.
Well, this was directed and written or co-written by the guy who, or maybe it was written completely by the guy, J.D. Dillard, who is going to supposedly be taking on the Fly remake.
Why do we need a remake of The Fly?
It was already a remake.
It was already a remake. This is going to be like a new adaptation.
Oh boy, but they did that with The Thing, and that was dumb.
Well, well, I mean, the thing about that is, and you're very right on that, Bill Leon, in that The Thing from Another World, the original film, is a really classic old monster movie. And John Carpenter's The Thing was the rare remake that in many ways eclipses the original. And then they made a third thing, and it just kind of sucked.
Because it was the same thing, essentially.
The Fly is a classic old monster film. And then David Cronenberg's The Fly is the rare remake that actually eclipses the original in a lot of ways. And then, I mean, if you try to strike that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. To try. You were saying to try to strike that magic 3 times in a row is pretty difficult, and you're right. It is. Saw some promise in this movie from J.D. Dillard in terms of like how the body looked, how his arm looked with the magnet in it, how like regards to body horror and regards to special effects, it all looked low key and believable.
Okay.
On that, and maybe he can, with a studio backing, he can make something beyond, slight, beyond what this movie showed. You know what I mean? Like maybe with more money, he'll be able to do more things. I don't know. You would think though, with less money, you would have to make your writing that much better. But in this case, that wasn't the case. It was just, bland.
Or you might say, in fact, we've said it before, that the movie was slight. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to do that. I know it's running the same joke twice, but whatever.
That's fine. But that's a 4 beer movie basically, and I felt disappointed by it, and on the messenger chat when I told him about it, he was like, that is vastly disappointing.
Yeah,
as well, and I was like,
sometimes the worst movies are the ones that are near misses, where there's things about it you could see, but then there's things that just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's what happened.
The next movie we'll be talking about is a movie that I was hoping to be able to talk with Hawk Ripjaw about, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it this week. The Devil's Candy.
The Devil's Candy. A morphine joke? No, wait. What's the band? What's it? Marcy Playground. That's it. Sex and Candy. Yeah. Or
that's not how they sing it, but whatever.
Presidents of the United States of America have a song called Candy. That's a good song. That whole record is good. You should go listen to that. Anyway, so let's talk about.
As long as we're talking about artists with songs named Candy, I mean, Iggy Pop has the song Candy from the album Brick by Brick. So, yeah.
New Edition has Candy Girl. I watched the first part of that BET TV movie about New Edition.
That one cool. Band has that song I Want Candy.
Bow Wow Wow is what they're called.
There we go. Okay.
Bow wow wow yippee-yo, yippee-yay, bow wow yippee-yo, yippee-yay.
That's a better song than I Want Candy is. But that's by George Clinton. George Clinton's awesome.
Yeah.
So The Devil's Candy is a movie, technically, depending on what source you find, it's either a 2015 movie or a 2017 release. And it really depends on your broad definition of what is considered an official release.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, The Devil's Candy is a 2017 film because it got a general public release in 2017, and therefore I consider it a new movie. Anyway, that's my rant on that. The Devil's Candy, it's a horror film written by Sean Byrne, who's done one other movie before that I've not really heard much about. So this is sort of probably his more prominent new movie. The movie is a very stylish demon-based horror film that is it borrows just a little bit of it borrows just a little bit of Rob Zombie while also being coherent, well edited. You actually care about.
If you borrow something from Rob Zombie, isn't that like secondhand because he borrows from everyone else?
Literally the only thing it borrows from Rob Zombie is the heavy metal atmosphere.
Right. Okay.
Borrowing from Rob Zombie. I'm imagining Rob Zombie's neighbor asking for his lawnmower.
I want to say I like Rob Zombie. That was a cheap shot joke, but I do like.
I'm not making a cheap shot. I think Rob Zombie is a completely talentless filmmaker who has good ideas that he's as a filmmaker. I will not judge him as a musician.
Bill A., how do you feel about this?
I don't think he's talentless, but I do think he's struck out more times than he's made a home run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
To me, he's a director who has absolutely no concept of the word subtlety, and
yeah, well, yes, but that doesn't make you a
restraint.
bad filmmaker. I mean, sometimes you can just be completely outlandish and be great.
He's a fanboy.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for him to do anything resembling good.
Well, I would say Devil's Rejects is probably his best film.
Yes. Ken is not a fan. But Ken, I do want to say on behalf of Devil's Rejects, though, casting Bill Moseley in that, basically reviving his career, good decision, good performance.
The people that Rob Zombie does have, he casts sometimes some really interesting actors in his films, and then he also casts his wife Sherry Moon Zombie, who has all of the acting ability of a cockroach.
I can't argue with you on that. I can't defend her. But again, like, he makes interesting decisions. Devil's Rejects, I don't recall discussing that film with you, so I don't remember what your specific gripes are with it, but that film is...
It has no plot to it. It's a series of scenes that are only tacitly connected. Montage sequences that are, hey, I like this song. Let's play the entire song over the course of the sequence.
I would argue it has a plot.
Yeah, I would argue it does have a point, which is that the characters that you follow through the whole film are shitty, despicable characters, and you know that going in. And they get their comeuppance at the end. They get fucking blasted away by the police.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you about it.
I would say it's
so the Devil's Rejects. No,
I would call that movie my film reject.
Oh,
but that's not a terrible joke. That joke was, you know what that joke was? That joke was something you might see in a Rob Zombie movie. I'm sorry, I didn't come here to just rip on Rob Zombie. Other than
this movie has really little to do with Rob Zombie, for the record.
It really doesn't. The only thing that this movie has in connection with Rob Zombie is the fact that Rob Zombie likes dark, heavy music, and this movie features a lot of dark, heavy music.
There's a scene. There's a scene where the teenage girl in the film, I don't remember her character's name, but she gets a guitar. She gets the classic V metal guitar. And she can't play for shit, but she's just loving it. She's just playing all this, fucking around on the guitar, and I'm like, that's how a fucking kid that loves rock music gets their hands on a guitar. That's what they're gonna do. And that was a scene that I was like, this is charming. There's a lot of charming things in this.
So the Devil's Candy opens up with a sequence, a very disturbing sequence in which this large man, played by the actor Pruitt Taylor Vince, a very prolific character actor. He's always typecast as playing the big bald fat guy, and that's because he is, and that's what he does, and he's good at it. Well, anyway, he plays in this Ray. Ray is a kind of mentally handicapped, unstable adult male living in this home, and it's late at night, and he's hearing this droning, devilish voice in his head, and it's in this indiscernible language, and he tries to drown it out by blasting his guitar late at night. His mother comes into the room and tells him to stop playing, and he stops playing long enough to murder her, and then murder the husband, the father, and then go back about his business. And he hides the fact that they were murdered. But fast forward to the future, and Ethan Embry plays Jesse Hellman. He's a heavy metal fan and a painter who is moving into the home that this murder took place in, along with his wife and their daughter.
That's his wife? I thought that was his mother.
Okay, no, it's his wife.
I don't mean that in a direct, like, I'm not, legitimately, if you watch what I watched of the film, which is very limited little spurts, but the dynamic I got from that was like that was his mother, because she kind of treats him like motherly.
Well, here's the thing. I would argue that there is certainly something to that, in that, first of all, Ethan Embry's character is a metalhead and a painter, and artists by their nature have a kind of, especially the unrestrained ones, the artists who have really never grown up.
Mother,
in many ways, the people
you had me, but I never had you.
Ew.
All right, John Lennon. What you may have done is you could have also thrown out a mother.
Yeah.
You got Danzig Mother, you got Pink Floyd Mother, which goes, Mother, do you think they'll drop the bomb? Mother, do you think they'll sing this song?
I used to dance in my older brother's bed listening to Mother on repeat.
Mother, have the children not to say my name. Mother.
It was just a funny song to us.
Nice, Mother.
His voice has a lot of emotion in it, and the lyrics are I mean, it's a fun song. The lyrics are a little corny, but that's the strength he puts into it. It's a fun song.
I like that. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that song. All the songs that we've been discussing with the word mother in them are great. Good songs.
So anyway, what ends up happening is they move in, and when they move into the house, suddenly Ethan Embry's character starts hearing that same droning, devilish chanting in his head. And as a painter, in the case of Ray, the guy who killed his family, his artistic expression and his way of getting the voices out of his head was to drown them out by shredding his electric guitar. In the case of Jesse, he gets his demons out of his head by painting. And so he sequesters himself in the shed next to the house and starts painting obsessively, to the point where he realizes that he's been apparently painting for hours, and he blacked out during the entire period. Mm-hmm. He doesn't remember what he's painted. And when he finds out what he paints, through a series of flashes, you find out that it's painting the faces of these people that Ray has been murdering.
Well, before that, I mean, that's what I kind of appreciated about his character arc as far as what I saw of it, which is that it starts out as just butterflies on kind of a colored background.
Right, and the butterflies the painting was supposed to have been a commission for like a library or something.
Right.
And he completely throws that out in order to turn it into this horrifyingly disturbing image of
it's not, he's doing it, he's not conscious when he's doing it, I suppose. I mean, he just does it.
Exactly.
His instincts take over, and he just goes over it. And that's the interesting thing about it, though, is like it was constantly this one painting being changed and altered.
Right, and that's a really neat artistic element to it, is that you see this painting that starts off very docile, some butterflies in a field, and then slowly it becomes morphed over time into a truly demonic piece. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how far you watched. I know, Bill, you kind of nodded off after a while, but...
it was a combination between nodding off and just the movie got a little too horror filmy, intense. Like,
the
whole like abducting children thing. I kind of got a little.
Make no bones about it. This is a disturbing fucking movie. Ray is,
and it's not like I can't handle that kind of thing. I just bailed because I wasn't in the mood for it.
Okay, fair enough.
I do want to see it. I do want to finish it because I am impressed with what I've seen.
This is a hardcore horror film in that it really, the way it breaks down, you are presented with a very believable, realistic feeling sensation of dread. I was watching this movie, and it was during the day. It was nice, bright and light out, but I was feeling the tension of the situation that these characters were confronting, and in my own mind thinking of how I would deal with it, and not being sure if I could deal with it very well. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is Ray he finds his way back to his old house where his family used to live, and he starts basically stalking the Hellman family. I don't want to go into the spoilers of this one because I have to say this is one of my favorite movies of 2017 so far. I really do want people to see it. The sound design is amazing. Whenever those demonic voices come through, especially if you're watching with some good speakers, they really boom in, and it's this just truly spine-tingling sensation. And the use of the music in the film is great because while it's very much a heavy metal based movie, it never gets schlocky and it never uses it in a corny way. Very similar to how last year the way Green Room treated punk rock music. It's a very respectful kind of feeling. Well, where in the movie personifies heavy metal in very much the same way Green Room is kind of a punk rock movie.
I can get behind that. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so I'm not going to go into any more of this plot because the ending of this movie is one hell of a climax, and it's a climax that I will say will surprise you. You won't go in thinking it's going to end quite the way it does, and when it's one of those movies with a setup and payoff that is really nice, and it's so rare to get a true setup and payoff that is satisfying, where you leave the movie thinking that was really they got me. I was not expecting that to happen. Anyway. So, and I also will say Ethan Embry completely disappears into his role if you're familiar with him, like for movies like fucking Can't Hardly Wait, or I mean, that's a movie that you probably only saw if you're like my age, and
I saw it on cable many times, but I never like sat down and watched it start to finish.
Can't Hardly Wait in many ways kind of feels like my generation version of like I just brain farted on it.
Do you like the film?
Yeah, I do. I actually I like it.
Okay.
But here's the thing: I acknowledge that it's a movie of its time. That it's a movie that could
That's
only
the film.
be.
Sorry. Okay, I guess I'll
Yes,
talk.
it's the film with
that's
Seth Green in it.
But that's the film where Seth Green is locked in the bathroom for the majority of the film, right?
Basically, yes.
Yes. Okay. I know the movie you're talking about. I have never actually sat down and watched it start to finish.
Okay. Okay. So what I was
Based
going
on
to
your
say
recommendation,
is that,
though, I would watch it. I'll check it out.
well, that's the thing. While I like the movie, I completely acknowledge that it's a movie of its time, and you almost have to have been of a certain generation for it. The movie that I can't believe. Fuck, George Lucas directed this movie, and I can't remember the
American
name of it.
Graffiti.
Fucking yay, American Graffiti.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good to have around on this
It's
podcast.
Yes. Whereas American Graffiti was a love letter to people who grew up at a certain time, and actually, that's
the thing.
I'm not remembering.
I tried to
things today.
watch. Well,
You're not doing a good job at it, are you?
No,
let me take over for you.
Eat some chocolate.
I tried to watch American Graffiti, and I was so bored with it. I was like, I don't get it. Other gets it because
I agree. American Graffiti I found boring. Richard Linklater's movie
Dazed and Confused.
I found it felt alien to me. It felt like
I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't feel that way at all.
To me, it felt like this is what teenagers did during this time.
No, that makes sense.
It didn't make sense to me.
I watched I watched Dazed and Confused before I ever really started to get into that kind of culture, like 70s rock and smoking pot and that kind of stuff. And when I watched Dazed and Confused, though, I got it. With American Graffiti, I was definitely feeling very confused and alienated, and I was like, what? I don't get. Like, I don't know. It is sort of a generational thing when you look at it, in my opinion.
Right.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Go ahead.
You want me to go ahead? Okay. I'll go ahead. In my opinion, so you have like the 80s nostalgia towards the 50s with I know American Graffiti came out in the 70s, but I don't think it really found its cult audience until the 80s.
It was a hit when it came out.
Yeah, but this was before Ron Howard was on Happy Days.
American Graffiti was a big hit when it came out, Bill.
Yeah, I wasn't.
If it weren't for American Graffiti being a success, George Lucas would never have been trusted by 20th Century Fox to make Star Wars.
That's not even really what I want to be saying here. What were we talking about? The Devil's Candy? The Devil's
Candy I kind of wrapped up on. I was just talking about, I mentioned Can't Hardly Wait, and I was talking about Ethan Embry and the fact that he's in Can't Hardly Wait.
Right.
And I realized that was the movie that I remember him most from, even though I fully acknowledged.
He's also in Empire Records, guys.
I have not seen that.
Nor have I. Is that good?
Really? You guys haven't seen? It's like the record store version of Clerks.
Yeah, I thought High Fidelity was.
Oh,
High Fidelity maybe in a way, but that's more deeper. That's more.
I also have never seen High Fidelity, by the way. So.
High Fidelity is like a legitimate drama. And it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong, but Empire Records is another one of those generational movies where it's about young people working at a record store. And then it's like a slice in their life, that kind of thing.
My opinion on this was going to be that I think Superbad is my generation's version of that kind of movie, being younger than the two of you.
Well, all of those movies have a very similar theme, which is they all take place right around the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like of that nature, yeah.
And they're all in their own way. They're celebrating in a big way. In American Graffiti, they're celebrating by getting in cars and driving around, and because that was a big thing in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And in Dazed and Confused, they're getting in cars, driving around, and heading to some kind of party bash thing.
They're going
Yeah,
to
out
a
in the
yeah,
woods,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think,
You're
yeah.
right. You're right. They're going to a party.
Can't Hardly Wait's about a house party.
Mhm.
Superbad is kind of that's about a house party also.
It's more about the
I
adventure
guess.
leading to a house party. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about these three loser characters kind of finding themselves and finding confidence in being who they are.
Yeah.
Which and who they are happens to be like 28-year-olds who are pretending to be high school.
Well, you're talking about the actors. I'm just talking about the characters in the script. It's that's sort of the thread between all of these films, because Dazed and Confused has a set of nerd characters, Adam Goldberg and that one guy from Rent. That's there is a set of sort of underdog characters in every single one of these films. Superbad just happens to make them the protagonist. Revenge of the Nerds? Anybody? Revenge of the Nerds? That's a fun movie.
Well, it's about rapists.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, right? I rewatched this recently at work, and I kept saying, I was like, he just raped that girl. And we watched Biodome.
He was okay with it, apparently, but that's not a good message.
Yeah, we watched Biodome at work recently, and I was like, they just raped those girls, or at least sexually assault at the very minimum. You know what I'm talking about, right? In Biodome.
Wait, what scene are you talking about? When they're asleep?
The girls are asleep, and Stephen Baldwin and Pauly Shore sneak into the girls' rooms and climb into bed with them and commit sexual assault. Like that's what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That happens.
Yeah, you know what? That does. And
That's
it almost, to be honest, like people talk about how Animal House has an age because it deals with stuff like that too. But at least Animal House has the scene where the girl, the underage girl, passes out, and then he has the devil and the angel on his side, and he ends up choosing to not.
And then he went on to play.
It's.
And he was a fantastic boy, that Tom Hulse.
Yes, I guess.
Hey.
Well,
he's a good boy. He follows.
If there's a topic that we will veer right the fuck off of it today, I guess.
Wow, it's
I blame myself.
It was gearing to be a short episode.
Well, yeah. So you were talking about like just stuff to discuss before we get to. I know we still have Nova Seed and Dear White People to talk about. We'll get to that, but this is an interesting topic of conversation. Like,
what is our generation's movies, and also do they involve rape?
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, because there's a lot of examples you could bring up.
Even Can't Hardly Wait has some examples of it's not rape, but it's like to assault, or at least what's the word for rape when it's not? It's like you're underage, but it's not. It's
Statutory.
Statutory. Yeah, it comes close to statutory rape a couple times. Yeah.
I haven't seen Can't Hardly Wait for years, honestly.
Watch it all the time when I was sick.
I know, I've seen it like 6 or 7 times at least.
I've seen it on TV. And it was probably edited for content. So I don't know what I've seen. I probably saw some butchered version of it.
I don't know what my generation's version of all of that is. I mean, let
me.
My generation's movie. My generation's version of the nostalgic movie that's actually about rape.
No, yeah, I was exactly. Going to say. Well, rape aside, I was going to suggest to you, Bill, maybe Detroit Rock City, because it takes place in a day. It's a coming of age story. There might be rape. Is there rape in there?
No, there's statutory rape, but it's not.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna give you guys a classical example of a movie.
Oh yeah,
really
you're talking
about
about
sexual politics.
He's talking about Gene Simmons' wife banging Edward Furlong. That's the statutory rape he's talking about.
Here's a classic movie with fucked up sex politics. Robert Altman's MASH.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah, that movie has like a lot of.
There are 2 really messed up ones. In Robert Altman's MASH, for instance, there's an extended sequence in which they rig the women's shower to collapse while this one woman goes into it to publicly embarrass her.
Oh boy.
And that's actually
that was an in joke.
Comparatively tame. Because there's an entire subplot in the middle of the movie about a person who is wrestling with the possibility of the fact that he may be gay and deciding he wants to commit suicide over it. And they convince him that he's not gay by making him think he's about to take a suicide pill, but instead giving him a knockout pill. And then he wakes up in the bed with a very beautiful woman, and they fuck.
Oh
which
my god!
May or may not be great, depending on your definition.
Yeah, that's harder to say. That movie's more. I don't know. I mean, that's harder to say. I guess.
Then there's a scene in the movie where they pay a prostitute to essentially rape a person in order to blackmail him.
Okay, well yeah, okay.
Well, I'm just saying that Robert Altman's MASH, which I still consider to be one of the great all-time classic comedies, is a movie with some messed up sexual politics in it.
Well, there you go. I don't know. For me, maybe it is Empire Records. Maybe it is. I was a young kid. I was really young when that came out. I was.
So, what's the messed up sexual politics in Empire Records?
This old rock star has consensual sex with an of age young woman. Fucked up though. That's just consensual. That's fucked up because her other friend wanted to have sex with him, and she ended up having sex. So like one of those jealousy kind of things. But it's not really like fucked up in terms of like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. Has that fucked up necrophilia bit.
Clark's, yeah.
Necrophilia. I can't. I'm not. This is going to take some time for me to think about. This might be my next Barfly column.
Oh, Chasing Amy is totally fucked up in its sexual politics.
Yeah, I know. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be
right. Well, it's a movie that is very dated by the climax. That final scene in the film in which the three confront each other and Ben Affleck's character comes to the stunningly witty conclusion that the only way that we can resolve our differences is to all fuck.
Yeah, and then Amy's like, dude, do you know how crazy that is?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Plus, I know for a fact that Chasing Amy, there are a bunch of movies. They're not movies. There are a bunch of YouTube video social justice people who've made comments about how inaccurately that movie depicts, lesbian culture, for instance.
They're not. They're not wrong
right.
to do that. I would argue
because
you got. This is controversial. Y'all want to talk about some controversy? Look at Kevin Smith now versus Kevin Smith then. I wouldn't really trust either of them to school me on how lesbians work.
No. Yeah, no. Kevin Smith is certainly.
I would trust Max Landis more to trust me to explain this sort of thing. And me, him, her, nah, don't waste your time with it.
You would trust Max Landis to trust you to explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would shake his hand in a minute. He'd be like, explain this for me? Because
Max Landis it's like that Monty Python skit about the guy who's never had sex before, and he's like, what's it like?
Yes.
At the very end of it, he's like, you've had sex with a woman. He's like, yes.
Do you like photography? Candy photography? I know. Say no more, huh? Yeah.
I like Max Landis, and I don't know. Anyway, me, him, her, compared to Chasing
You just want
Amy.
to explain sex. You just want to explain sex to Max Landis.
That's all I want. That's all I want. You're right.
Is it just me, or does that sounds like a podcast explaining sex to Max Landis?
Oh, I would listen. I would subscribe to that podcast on iTunes.
And it's just like Max Landis brings in a series of people who their entire job for that episode is to explain to him what sex is.
He has a movie coming out on Netflix, right? Doesn't Max Landis has a movie coming out on Netflix? I forget what it's called.
Everyone has a movie coming out on Netflix at this point.
You're right.
That's a good joke. Everyone keeps telling me I should see Casting Jean Bonnet because it's really fucked up.
I lived through
for next week.
Here's the thing. It kind of reminds me of like the OJ thing where I struggled with whether I wanted to actually watch any of those OJ shows because I lived through watching those news stories for like a year.
Oh yeah.
Me too. I remember watching The Verdict with my family.
Now, I'm younger. You know? I'm a young boy, so I remember just sort of it was going on, and I was too young to understand what was going on. So adults would just be like, O.J. Simpson's on trial. I'm like, who the fuck is O.J. Simpson?
Exactly.
I remember when the verdict for O.J. Simpson came out. I was in school at the time, and when they announced the verdict, people in my classroom actually started breaking down and crying. And I should explain in advance. I went to the most white bread of white bread schools. I think, I don't even know that we had anyone of like diverse, any level of diversity until at least near middle school or anything. And so, and this was elementary school, and it happened. The teachers literally had to console students over the OJ verdict.
I remember that happened because they announced it over the fucking school PA system. Who won? Yeah.
Crazy they do that. Yeah.
My first two things I remember being announced, the first two news items I remember was Bill Clinton winning the election and O.J. Simpson's verdict. What the fuck?
I remember.
How is one as important as the other?
Announcing the Oklahoma City bombing happened.
We didn't even get that announced. I came home to find out it happened.
Were you guys in high school when 9/11 happened?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's when I heard about it. I was walking from it was class, but it wasn't really class. It was more like we just played basketball, and I was walking from that to math class when someone in the hallway going, "They took down the towers." And I was like, "What is this, a Lord of the Rings thing? What the hell's going on?" Rings was coming out that year and everything.
Yes,
and I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I didn't know what the towers were, what he meant by that. And so I walk in the math room, and there it is. It's on TV, and I was like, "Oh, that's what he meant."
My high school went about that all fucked up. They didn't make any announcement. They didn't tell anyone anything. It was just an entire day of like hearing through the grapevine, the few people who had access to whatever like contacts they had from outside the school would say things were happening. And we just kept hearing all of these outlandish stories about what was happening. We didn't know what was true and what wasn't. I didn't know exactly what had happened until I came home and saw it on TV. Mm-hmm. That was a fucked up day for me, just because I spent the whole day thinking, like, in one side I was hearing people saying the entire city of New York was under siege, and then other people were talking about, and I was just a plane flew into the tower, and one of the towers was damaged. So I didn't know what to believe, and we didn't have any way of looking it up because this was my high school, and our computer systems were, we didn't
very good.
Yeah, we didn't have very good. We had internet and we had access to it if we wanted, but classes.
It was like occasional web pages and stuff like that. I figured out a way to other than the teachers. I actually figured out a way to go to movie pages during class time. Like they were like, you're just gonna explore the online encyclopedia. I was like, I already know this shit. I'm gonna look up shaftmovie.com.
Shaft.
The Shaft remake was out, and back then on movie pages for websites, for movies, they would have like wallpapers you could download or sound bites and stuff like that.
Yep.
Or games you could play.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
remember.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I just remember all that.
Well, I was going to say, I remember when my parents got our first Windows-based computer. The Windows 3.1 is what we had it run on. It was this old Acer computer. And we had Microsoft Encarta. And we also had Microsoft Cinemania, which was kind of like a World Book Encyclopedia of movies that was put together by Pauline Kael, Leonard Maltin, and Roger Ebert all sponsored it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically the cool thing about this movie bank that it had is there were tons of these little. Now, mind you, this entire thing was on one CD, but there was hours of very heavily compressed video and sound bites and pictures of movies. And the best part was, like, sometimes I would discover movies, and years before I even saw the movie, I would hear like sound bites from the movie. For instance, Pulp Fiction. On my old computer, I heard a whole bunch of things like sound bites from Pulp Fiction long before I even knew they were associated with Pulp Fiction. Like, oh, I'm sorry, did I break your concentration?
There's a podcast.
I had an audio file that played that.
There's a podcast of me and Ken talking about David Bowie. The first time I ever heard David Bowie was there's a sample of Changes on Encarta 95.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the 90s when I was in a very famous TV show.
All right, Bojack.
Anyway, what's next? Speaking of animation, there's this film called Nova Seed.
There is Nova
cool.
Seed.
It's pretty.
So I've been
just went off on such a tear. That was such a long tear. It was great. I enjoyed
9/11, 9/11 rape generational movies.
Oh boy, yeah.
This is going to be I should rename this the Triggered episode.
The darkest timeline.
This is the episode that will trigger you one way or another. Okay, so Nova Seed is the brainchild of essentially one person, Nick Liberto, I think it is. DiLiberto?
I looked it up, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, Nick DiLiberto. And I have it up here. He animated the film. He hand drew every single frame of this film himself. And he wrote it with himself alongside his brother. And he and his brother and a handful of other people did all of the voices for the film. And even some of the sound effects are done by people doing voices, like, of things.
I noticed that, yeah. There's definitely, as far as the voice acting goes, there's a very humble sort of community quality to it where you feel like, you know, this was the filmmaker and their friends doing this
exactly.
work.
This movie has a handmade quality to it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, it feels like a film that it's the film equivalent of when the Muppets say, "Let's put on a show. Let's put on a show in the barn."
Yeah, or like if you've ever listened to the Mr. Show commentaries, the way Bob Odenkirk describes the sort of Mr. Show, he's always talking about, like, I want it to look shitty. I want it to feel like a group of people just came together to put on a show.
Right, and now I'm not going to say that they intentionally wanted this movie to feel.
No, yeah. I don't mean that. When I talk about Mr. Show, like, that's, you know, that was sort of the spirit of that series. But what
Nova Seed is a throwback to classic adult-aimed animation mostly from the 80s. Like
there's a huge 80s vibe to this. It's.
Yes, this movie has elements of heavy metal. It has elements of, as Bill, you mentioned, the Black Cauldron. It has elements of Fire and Ice, the Ralph Bakshi movie.
Not just Fire and Ice, a little bit of American Pop. I mean, American Pop takes place in reality, and it's just like human-based storytelling. But the rotoscope thing, like, that was huge when that movie came out. Like,
oh yeah,
nobody had made a movie like that before American Pop. I see that. I see that influence in Nova Seed, and
you're right. And Nova Seed also though borrows the very bright and cartoony colors from Saturday morning cartoons like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Thundercats.
Mm-hmm.
Where everything is these neon bright colors, and what's great about it is while this movie is a throwback to all of those, he also writes a completely original science fiction-y fantasy story that could fit within any of those worlds, but is its own completely. And in fact, actually, you can even. I'm sorry. We've been talking about all of these influences. I have to say, there's also a little touch of. There's a little touch of anime in this too.
Oh yeah, especially anime from the 1980s.
Certainly. So I'll start by saying, a quick description of the plot. It takes place on this unnamed, dying Earth-like world, where clearly there's been a major worldwide nuclear battle, and they hint very strongly that the battle took place between humans and these human/animal hybrids that are created by this mad doctor named Mind Skull. Which, of course, Dr. Mind Skull, that's certainly not out of the 80s in any way, shape, or form.
Whoa, what's that noise?
Sound like thunder.
It's storming in the background for me.
All right, well, that's appropriate for a villain named Mind Skull.
Dr. Mind Skull!
Exactly. Yeah, that was good.
So Mind Skull has, as far as I can tell, because the great thing about the story is there's a lot of gaps for you to fill in your own mind. You feel like there could have been a bunch of other serialized stories in between this. It feels like kind of a mid-story within a continuing saga. And Mind Skull, the feeling I get from the story is Mind Skull created these human-animal hybrids because of his plans to conquer the world. And the animals, to some extent, rebelled against his power and sort of started trying to forge a way of their own. And as this film picks up, the animal-human hybrids are all but laid to waste by humanity. But humanity, in the process of doing that, of winning the war, kind of destroyed the ecosystem of the planet, and they themselves are faced with their own destruction. The movie opens up with this fun and cheesy kind of glad sequence in which a bunch of humans are drinking and eating and watching this televised program in which character Knack, a voiceless lion-human hybrid, is being forced to battle against this guy, this human with a Roman gladiator helmet. It's very stylized and there's a sense of humor to it, while at the same time a genuine to it. So what ends up happening is Knack winds up completely trouncing his opponent, and they decide that only Knack has the power to save humanity, so they him at gunpoint to take him to Mind Skull's lair. And they infiltrate Mind Skull's lair to find out that Mind Skull has this plan to use the power of I guess the power of plants to destroy the world. Is that it is there's so well, no, it's like a plant monster in the form of like a giant kaiju, basically. And
so
it turns out
Hellboy 2.
Right, and the power of the power of plants though is controlled by this like naked teenage girl in this floating in this like fishbowl, who she's clearly like some sort of forest spirit or something. That's where the anime element gets into.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's very anime, and it's sort of like she is the essence. She's the spiritual culmination, physical culmination of whatever it's weird. I don't know that it needs to be explained again because it takes so much influence from like 80s shit, which is a lot of the stuff that I feel like this film. Can I call this a film?
It's a feature film. Animated films, by their nature, especially being this film was as low budget and quick as it was made. Even though I would say the movie's over an hour in length, it counts as a feature.
They take a lot of influence from things from the past that are sort of ambiguous in their storytelling.
Right.
Like when you get into stuff like Akira, and when you talk about anime, even something like Little Shop of Horrors, they're kind of taking a little bit of influence from, as far the plant life element of it. They never, the plants don't sing or anything like that, but it's like they're sentient and this.
Well, there's your Saturday morning cartoon comparison because the voice of Mother Brain was in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah. There's a definite Metroid element to this too.
So, long story short, I'm going to say that Nova Seed is. It's hard to go into too much of it without getting confusing because plot-wise, it's definitely there's so much to it, and yet it's so dense. There's so much in every frame.
I agree with you, but I don't think that this. I really when I described this to you earlier, I brought Newgrounds into the comparison because it really reminds me of like a young scrappy animator on Newgrounds.com. Giving it their all in Flash and being like, this is what I can do, but like the whole film is consistently with that tone. Like they're the low budget, or I guess, this was a low budget production. It looks beautiful and it sort of bridges the gap. It's so hard to explain because it's like amateur, but it's not. It has this.
What this movie feels like to me, Bill, is it feels like the greatest resume that an animator could possibly give to people. Rather than writing up a complicated resume, he could just give this to people and say, "I made this basically by myself. Will you hire me?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guarantee anyone who watches it, who knows animation, will see it and say, this dude's got talent and he's got imagination. We've got to get him on our staff. I hope that Nick I keep fucking up his name. Nick Diliberto. I hope.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Jibby Boom Bots. I hope Nick Diliberto really solid animating job. In fact, I think they should put him in charge of some sort of a creative project. I'd like to see more hand-drawn animation. And that's the other thing. You just don't see that much hand-drawn, adult-aimed feature animation anymore. And it was so satisfying to see something that brought back the classic of an old adventure animation that they just don't make them anymore.
Yeah, this thing. The one thing that I think I have not said about this film is that it in a way, despite all the other influences that I could say, like it reminds me of this or reminds me of that, it really hardcore reminds me of those Dragon's Quest. No, what are they called? Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair by Don Bluth, those video games. When I was watching this, I was like, I wish I was playing this with that. It's a shitty control scheme and it's very trial and error. But if Nova Seed had been one of those Dragon's Lair type games with the push up, push down, push action button to progress type of things, I would not be unsatisfied with it. I would. My point is that it reminds me of that. It definitely took some influence from that as well. And that, again, fucking 1980s. Like this thing is a love letter to a lot of different things going on in animation in the 1980s. I adored it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on next to Dear White People, the series, which, Bill, you have seen the entire series. I haven't even watched episode 1, so I'm curious what your thoughts are for this. Now, this is a half-hour show, right?
Yes. I wasn't paying attention to the runtime of every single episode. I'm sure they differ here and there, as a lot of Netflix shows do. But starting from episode 1, I noticed a lot of similarities to the movies. Singular movie. The film really did its job appropriately, to where when I heard that they were doing this, I was like, why? What do you need to, what can you do with this? Because the movie was so good. I really loved the movie when it came out. And I didn't understand what exactly they could accomplish by expanding this into a TV series. And now that I have seen the TV series, I get it. It starts off very similar to the movie. Like they pretty much,
Okay.
The first 1.5 episode are pretty much just like a highlight reel of the movie. But then every single episode for a while starts to focus on specific characters, and it fleshes them out a lot more than they were in the film. You have I don't remember a lot of these characters' names. There are some that I do, but like the white boy Sam was dating in the film. Sam is the main character. Like, there's a whole episode focused on him. There's a whole episode focused on Reggie, who was the sort of militant black boy that she was sort of dating / friends with in the film. Lots. There's just like, it's super interesting how they kind of, with the longer runtime to flesh this out, they took all these characters that don't get too much to do in the original film, and they flesh them out so much, and they make them feel, it's so expanded. Like I really feel like if you like the film, you would like the show, because it takes every little sort of side element of the movie and fleshes it out to the point where I was satisfied, and I was like, okay, I like that you've done this.
Does the TV show follow the same story arc as the movie? Is it basically a remake of it, or does it follow a new story? Does it continue the story?
It does continue the story, and there's some specific explanations I would like to lay on that. Spoilers. So if you're not interested in spoilers, if you've seen the film and you want to watch the show, go watch the show, because I'm probably about to spoil the show, and I apologize for doing that, but I'm going to do it anyway. So it came out in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They updated appropriately, because they talk about a lot of in real life. They talk about a lot of things that are kind of, I would say, social, like some popular terms. They say woke a lot. Do you guys know about woke?
Yeah.
Being woke to something that's usually for like social issues. Are you aware?
They use the term woke a lot in the show, which, if I hadn't seen the film, I might have felt some type of way about, but because I saw the film and I get these characters and I get that they're updating them for 3 years later in a world like, okay, so like Trayvon Martin is a thing that comes up a few times in the show, and there's like a scene where a cop pulls a gun on a black student at this Ivy League school. If you don't know, the film Dear White People takes place at an Ivy League school called Winchester.
Yeah, fictional school.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be like rich, uptight, white collar.
It has the feeling of like a Brown University or a Yale.
And that element carries through to the series. Do you remember the character in the film? Her name is Coco. She did the YouTube show.
Oh, yeah, right.
So in the series, they expand on her character quite a bit in that it explains how like her and Sam they're in the same class. They're in the same graduating class. They got to the school at the same time. They decided to be friends and became roommates, and like they were friends for a while until, and in fact, they created the Dear White People thing together. That was this series. I love the series. Again, if you like the film, if you guys enjoyed the film, I can't recommend this series enough because I think it is an expansion. It is the DLC but it's like the best possible DLC that you could get.
I see that it looks like there's a lot of actors who reprise their roles from the film.
As far as I know, there's only two, Troy and Reggie.
Oh, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the credited list, there's at least 4 people who reprise.
Mm-hmm.
You have Brandon P. Bell, who returns. Ashley Blaine Featherson returns. You have Oba Babatunde, who returns.
Oh,
and,
that guy!
Mark
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just talking about the African exchange student. That
Don't forget Oba Babatunde, because that's an amazing name. I love it.
That dude, yeah, but that dude is great in the show. Like, I haven't seen the movie in a while. I need to rewatch the movie, but this project, I was kind of skeptical about it going in, and I can say like any kind of hesitation or sort of maybe bias that I had going in is completely gone because I enjoyed the hell out of this. I was impressed at the skill that it took to expand this into a series.
And well, it's created still by Justin Simeon, who also directed the original movie. So I would imagine that he just decided after making the movie that he still had a lot more to say within the universe he created there.
He did a great job. Yeah, he did a fantastic job. There are things, like I said, if you start to watch the show and it reminds you too much of the movie, fear not, because that will change almost immediately going into like episodes 2 and 3. It starts like that was my legitimate concern when I started this thing up, is that I was like, this is really similar to the film. I don't see what.
I have heard that there's an episode that's sort of a game changer for it.
Oh yeah. There's I think I know the episode you're talking about, and for me personally, there's a separate episode that I think, for me, I was way more into, but again,
well, there's no need to go into spoilers on it. I'm just going on what I've read. So
I think you guys should both check it out because I know you guys saw the movie before I did. You guys were fans of the film before I had ever seen it. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Bill. Since this episode is nearing its end anyway, I will say that because next week literally has only one major release, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. I will make it a point to watch Dear White People, the series, and then we can report on it again next week.
I would love to follow up with you on that because, again, I don't. This is like I'm about to be very verbose and absolute when I don't exactly mean to be, but it's like this when I watch the series. I was like, this is how movies should be adapted to TV shows. And it's not always going to be the case. You're going to get your bullshit. But the amount of work that they clearly put into making this absolutely fire on all cylinders is incredibly admirable. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot.
I did. I liked it a lot. There's a lot of there's a lot for somebody that had seen the film and was a big fan of the film. I really thought that I was going to go into this with no surprises. And there was a lot that I took away from it. There was a lot that I feel like when I watched the series, I'm like, oh man, it would have been cool if that was in the movie, but that would have made the movie too long, which is why like this as a series does work. And that's
right,
really, yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. I liked it. I recommend it to you guys. I think you will both enjoy it.
All right, so we will go ahead and use that as a stopping point for this episode. Next week, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2. I'm sure none of us are going to see that, right?
I'm going to see it. Yeah, I'll see it.
Yes. I think it's basically required viewing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that there's any doubt of that. So, in fact, I'm actually, as we've been talking, I've been combing through the local showtimes to see if there's any indie movies sneaking in this weekend of any type. Because I've been waiting for Colossal to come, and I'm not sure it's going to happen at this point. It's just not playing anywhere near me.
That's really too bad.
Mm-hmm.
There is a documentary called I Am Heath Ledger that's going to be playing.
I watched the trailer for that. Don't know how. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it.
There's a movie coming out this Friday. I don't know if it's coming out in your area, Ken, but it's called The Happiest Day in the Life of Ali Maki.
Okay.
I actually got a screener of it, and I'll be checking that out. So
the other movies playing in my area that, let's see, How to Be a Latin Lover.
Ooh,
which
yeah. Let's learn how
I know
to
that's
do
Ken
that.
Marino's movie.
Off the Rip Trial really wants to see it. Yeah, it is.
I love Ken Marino.
Yeah, Ken Marino directed it.
What? All right. Okay.
And then there's some movie called Tommy's Honor, which I've not heard of. Some low-budget drama. I guess it's a historical drama. Okay. And then there's a movie called... an Indian movie called Bahula Bali 2. And it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. So that's not going to be watched by me. So yeah, so Guardians. So we're gonna have to come up with some other thing. Well, then again, we may, as much as we
can talk about our Cronenberg escapades.
Yes, because we're gonna be watching some. Oh, great! Here we go. This movie, Tommy's Honor, just came up here. This movie is directed by Jason Connery, and it's about golfing champions. I'm looking up Jason Connery. I'm pretty sure, yes, he's Sean Connery's son. So Sean Connery's son directed a movie about Scottish golfing.
Doesn't sound boring.
Yeah, I mean, it can't possibly be as amazing as Sean Connery's brothers Neil Connery, his film OK Connery.
That was great, actually. I really enjoyed that movie. the Rift version, that is. I'm sure if you were to watch the regular version, it would probably be a pain. But
one thing about OK Connery that is pretty amazing is that it was made at all. So, on that note, on that bombshell, we will see you next week with our Guardians talk.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.